Hello, good morning, I'm Sayuti. Today I would like to present with regard my SSM project, which mainly talk about nervous system. Without further ado, let's start with the definition of nervous system. So, nervous system consists of the brain and spinal cord. It controls thought, movement, emotion, as well as breathing, heart rate, body temperature, and hormone. So, to make it short and simple, the nervous system is basically the system that take control of all our body. So, nervous system is divided into two parts, which is the central nervous system and also the peripheral nervous system. So, central nervous system is made up of brain and spinal cord. It serves as the main processing center for the entire system. Whereas the peripheral nervous system is a part of nervous system that lies outside the brain and spinal cord, send information to brain and carrying commands from brain to various parts of the body. So as we can see here in this picture, so this one that I highlight here is the central nervous system, and this branching over here from the spinal cord and the brain we call as the peripheral nervous system. So this is the anatomy of the neuron. So let's start with the dendrites here. So the dendrite is basically here, the one that branching from the cell body here, and the function is to receive signal from other cell. So we know that the neuron is connected to other neuron, right? So this is the cell body here, and then it's organized and keeps the cell functional. We have cell membrane to protect the cell. We have the axon hillock to generate impulse in the neuron, and we have the node of Ranvier here, which allow diffusion of ions. We have Schwann cell to produce the myelin sheath here. This is the myelin sheath, the one that color in blue, and then the Schwann cell is basically the dark blue here. We also have axon terminal, which form a junction with other cells, and myelin sheath that increase the speed of the signal, axon that transfer signals to other cells and organs, and last one is nucleus, which controls the entire neuron. So to add some more, I have provided this picture here to give you a big picture about where does this nerve comes from. So the nerve is basically comes from our spinal cord. So this is spinal cord, and then the nerve will branching from the spinal cord here, we call as rootlets, and then it will have posterior root and also anterior root, which will fuse to form a spinal nerve, a single spinal nerve, okay? And then it will move to our body, and then if we cut this spinal nerve, then we will see this vesicle over here. So this vesicle contain a bundle of neuron here. As you can see, this is the neuron. So the one that I show you in this picture here about this anatomy of neuron is basically a single neuron that exists in this bundle, okay? So this is the neuron that I talked just now here. So this is where the neurons comes from. It's come from the spinal nerve and inside the vesicle. Moving on to the next part, which is the types of neuron. So basically we have three types of neuron, which are sensory neuron, interneuron, and also motor neuron. So let's start with sensory neuron first. So sensory neuron is basically a unipolar nerve. How can we determine whether the neuron is multipolar, bipolar, or unipolar? So very easy. Just look at this cell body here. So we know that this cell body only have one projection here, right? So it is basically a unipolar nerve because it has one projection here. So remember that uni mean one. So one projection is unipolar nerve, right? So sensory neuron is a nerve cell that carry information through sensory receptor. So the sensory neuron is peripheral nervous system, which lies outside the brain and also the spinal cord. So this is not inside the central nervous system. It is only in the peripheral nervous system. Alright. Moving on to the next one is the interneuron. So this neuron, as you can see in this picture, right? So we have 1, 2 branch from this cell body here. So we call this neuron as the bipolar nerve, right? So this is the neuron that lies between sensory and motor neuron. It's connect sensory and motor neuron and located in central nervous system, which are the brain and spinal cord. So it is not located in any peripheral nervous system. Remember that. It also transfers signal from sensory neuron to motor neuron. Right? The last one is motor neuron. So we know that motor neuron is multipolar nerve because we already see that this cell body have multiple projection. So it transmit impulse from spinal cord to the muscle. It also control muscle movement. And then we have many motor neuron, which are from the upper and lower motor neurons. And then we have upper from brain to spinal cord, and then lower from spinal cord to the muscle. So, synapse is basically the points of contact between two neurons where information is passed from one neuron to the next. Mostly it's from axon to dendrite. So we have this now neurotransmitter here, which is a chemical messenger in our body that is very important. So the neurotransmitter is basically in the form of acetylcholine. So it will bind with the receptor and cause the opening of the ion channel. So we also have this enzyme here called acetylcholinesterase, which breaks down the acetylcholine. So this is the big picture of the synapse. So where does the synapse originate from? So basically the synapse is originate from these two neurons. So this is the first neuron and then this is the second neuron. So the area that was marked here is the synapse. Okay, so if we zoom this part here, we will get this big picture here. So this is the first neuron, this is the second neuron. The first neuron is the presynaptic neuron, and then the second neuron is postsynaptic neuron. And then we have this small area over here we call as synaptic cleft. About the transmission of signal from the first neuron to the second neuron. So this is the first neuron here, and this is the second neuron. So the first thing happen here is that the action potential from the first neuron will open the gate of ion calcium. So this ion calcium gate will open in this presynaptic membrane, and then it will allow the diffusion of calcium ion inside the presynaptic membrane. And after the ion calcium diffuse into the presynaptic membrane here, it will then trigger the vesicle here that contain neurotransmitter to move to the terminal of the presynaptic membrane, as you can see in this picture, right? So this is the neurotransmitter here, or acetylcholine, and then it enveloped by the vesicle. So the vesicle will move to the terminal of presynaptic membrane, and then the neurotransmitter will be released. This process is called exocytosis. The vesicle will fuse with the presynaptic membrane and release of the acetylcholine here. Next, in this picture, we already saw that the acetylcholine already bind with the receptor here. So to be specific, this is the nicotinic receptor. So it will bind with the nicotinic receptor here, and then will open the gate here. So we have gate, the first one, it is closed, right? So after the acetylcholine bind to it, it will be open, and then it allows the diffusion of sodium ion inside this postsynaptic membrane. So we know that extracellular fluid contain many sodium ion, so it will diffuse into this postsynaptic membrane and causes depolarization, because depolarization occur when the ion sodium enters the postsynaptic membrane or the neuron membrane. And then the last one is after the action potential already generated here, then the repolarization occur. So how does the repolarization occur? It is due to this enzyme here we call as acetylcholinesterase. So acetylcholinesterase will then remove the acetylcholine here that bind to the nicotinic receptor, so that the sodium gate is closed. And then we know what happened after that, right? The potassium ion will be pumped out from this postsynaptic membrane, and then it causes the repolarization, right? And then this will stay closed so that no more depolarization occur. Alright. So we have Alzheimer's disease here. Alzheimer's is basically a dementia, which is a term for several diseases that affect memory, thinking, and the ability to perform daily activities. So it is caused by the formation of abnormal protein, which is the amyloid plaques outside the cell and the tangles inside the cell. As you can see, this picture, this one is the tangles, and then this is the plaques that form inside the brain. Okay, so the form of this abnormal protein will cause neuronal death and subsequently shrink the brain. So the dead neuron will shrink the brain. Okay, so unfortunately the Alzheimer's has no treatment, but we can take medicines such as cholinesterase inhibitors. So it will increase the acetylcholine and help restore communication between the brain.